Welcome to the Karuna Life, a podcast dedicated to exploring the connection between spirituality and everyday life. I'm Gina Kitzmiller. I'm an intuitive, a Reiki master teacher, Akashic Records facilitator, and founder of Trimatri Reiki. As a longtime spiritual seeker, my goal is to help you navigate the complexities of the spiritual world, learn how to enhance your intuition, and lead a heart-centered life. Join me as we unravel the mysteries of energy work and metaphysical practices. We'll dive into high vibrational conversations with experts and personal storytellers, and learn how to recognize and communicate with those in spirit. So get ready to embrace your inner mystic and explore the realms of the unseen. Welcome to the Karuna Life. Today we are going to have a conversation with Jennifer Andrade. She is the owner of Blue Lotus, which is located in Florida. And Jennifer is a certified Spinal Flow technique practitioner, a Reiki master, sound healing therapist, and intuitive that is dedicated to supporting deep holistic healing. She believes true wellness emerges when the mind, body, and spirit are in alignment, and she is passionate about empowering others to reconnect with their inner divinity. Jennifer has a deep reverence for the nervous system as the bridge between spirituality and embodiment, and offers a grounded yet soulful approach to healing. I'm really excited to learn more about the Spinal Flow technique and all of the modalities that she offers. So Jennifer, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I shared a little bit about your background and your company. And to start us off today, I'm kind of feeling like I'm being led to start with talking about intuition. So I know just last night I had a dream in which and I don't get a whole lot of messages in dreams. So I was actually very excited about this. My boyfriend gets them all the time, but there was books and I was looking at titles of books and I pulled one off and the title said, "Don't Despair." And it said there was a very specific message for me underneath that about something going on in my life right now. And I woke up and thought, oh my gosh, it's so cool. Like I usually don't get messages that specific. So can you talk a little bit about intuition and how it plays a role in your life or in your work?
Yeah, so I feel like I've always been intuitive. I connect more with the dream world too. And my dreams have been getting very specific as well. But that started as a young girl. More recently, I've been noticing within the last year or so that I also can sense on a medical level what people are going through, which has been really interesting. A lot of times when my clients are about to come in, like a half hour before they come in, I'll get like a random pain or have trouble breathing or get a headache. And then when they come in, they'll be like, oh my God, I have the worst headache today. And the second they name it, the headache goes away for me. So I'm realizing that I'm tapping in that way. And when I'm working on people as well, I tend to sense what they're experiencing through like the touch and being in their energy field. So there's like many layers of how intuition kind of weaves in to my life and the work that I do. But yeah, I love that you had that dream. That was kind of cool. So you've never had that before?
I've certainly had like messages and dreams, but I thought the way this one presented was kind of interesting. Like the fact that it was on a book, it wasn't like a guide. I've had conversations where I sit with the guides and you kind of wake up or you've had like a visitation dream, but this one felt a little bit different and unique. So it was kind of cool to get it, to receive it, I guess, in a different way.
I recently had one that was kind of wild. Because I think I've shared with you before in previous conversations that when I talk to, or when I get like intuitive hits, I don't really ever feel like it's coming from spirit guides. I've always felt it coming from like a higher self, right? It's like it's in my voice, it's in the I, form. And so this dream that I had was interesting because I was like in a room and there was this man in the room and he kept saying, I'm King Darius. I'm King Darius. I've never gotten like an actual name before like that. And then he would be in a different room and I'd go in that room looking for him and then he wasn't there. And then I'd turn and look and he's in the other room. And like I spent like 10 minutes going back and forth trying to reach him. And when I woke up, I'm like, I remembered the name King Darius, and looked it up to see if there was ever a King Darius, and there was. He was a Persian king, uh, but I had never heard of King Darius before. But he was the predecessor of one of the kings in Persia that helped the Jewish people be released from Babylon. So I believe King Darius was responsible for allowing or helping the Jewish people rebuild their temples.
Wow.
I thought, wow, like what is the message there? Um, and at the time, I was kind of going through like, what is my place in all of the collaborations that I was doing at the time? I didn't really feel like they were fitting. And I realized in that moment that maybe I'm a space holder and I'm like helping people rebuild their temples, their inner temples, right? But yeah, so the dream world has always been kind of interesting for me. As a young kid, I remember I would have like prophetic dreams, and those kind of scared you. They scare you when you're younger. One particular one, I used to have this repetitive dream over and over that my house was on fire, and I would be standing in front of it outside the house, and all my family members were at windows, like banging on the windows, asking me to help them. And I remember I was like 10 when this happened, and it would happen repeatedly, and I'd wake up like really scared. And one night I had the dream, and I woke up scared. I went to go get a drink in the kitchen. And when I turned on the light, there was smoke coming from the basement. And I ran to go get my father. And he went down to the basement, and the dryer had caught on fire. So he
Oh,
put it out. And then after he put it out, I never had the dream again. So it's almost like I was being like warned ahead of time. But I thought that that was kind of wild. I have a lot of dreams about my father, and they're always dreams of things that have actually happened to him. The dream world is really, really a place that I seem to connect intuitively. So now I've learned to pay attention to what my dreams say. I keep a dream journal. I log everything. And it's really interesting how if you really sit with your dream journal and kind of analyze it, it there's always a deep message in there for you. And the more that you log them, the more I feel like the muscle strengthens, and then you're able to have more dreams, right? With any kind of intuition, the more you use the muscle, the more it gets stronger.
yeah, I agree. You make me wanna have a dream journal now, so I might have to start. I think when I'm so tired at the end of the day, I just wanna, like, recharge, like, my battery, like, turn me off,
Yeah.
like, just turn me back on again. I did one a few years ago, and I would ask my guides for a message, and then I would wake up in the middle of the night and then just jot down whatever word or phrase or song or anything that had came into my mind in the middle of the night, and I think that was a really good way to start to strengthen, like, my connection with them.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that word, it would just be one word, but it would there was something about it, and it's like, "Okay, where did that come from?"
Yeah.
So, I think that's interesting, but those are really great examples of intuition in the dream world. So, when you are seeing clients in your practice, I know one of the modalities that you use is one that I hadn't heard of until you and I met, and that's called Spinal Flow, and it's a really interesting modality. So, can you explain a little bit about what that is?
Yeah. So spinal flow is a healing modality that works directly with the nervous system. We live this very stressful life, and we can kind of get stuck in a fight or flight state. And spinal flow is designed to be a therapy. And every time you come in, you're releasing stored trauma and retraining the nervous system. So like the nervous system for me is like, it's like a conduit to consciousness, right? And when we have stored trauma in the nervous system, it doesn't allow us to have that connection with our higher self, right? So for me, spinal flow helps to clear that channel. And when that channel is clear, then people can really start tuning in to their purpose, to their mission, to the things that they love to do. It really allows you to have that clear channel that allows you to have that introspection and that integration. And the more that you have the clear channel and then you do the inner work, then you start to embody it, and then you can move through the world in a more authentic way, right? So it helps you to remember who you are. Um, and because we live such a fast-paced life, we're always doing this or that, work, kids, all the things, we end up just not taking time to reset. And we're just piling more stress upon our nervous systems that it ends up creating illness in our bodies. Yeah, it also just allows you to embody your authenticity.
I love that. And I agree. There's so much going on right now with the nervous system. I love the research that's come out about the vagus nerve and how that can affect us and our health and our emotions. And that you'll often feel with clients when you go into the field, it's almost like they're running too many programs. I always say it's like you have so many windows open on your laptop and it's starting to run the system a little bit slower. And I think that what we're seeing, especially with everything that's going on in the world and how fast paced things are becoming and the distractions, is that we're all kind of got like our shoulders up by our ears and we're kind of tense, but often we don't even realize that we're in that state. So
Yeah.
it sounds like Spinal Flow can really help to release some of those emotions that might be getting held in the auric field. Now, is it strictly energy work or is this involving some sort of hands on touch?
Yeah, so it is hands-on touch. For me, it's a blend of everything. So it can be very clinical, but I kind of approach it more with an energetic healing thought process. So you are using light touch on different access points on the body, from the tailbone up the spine, the neck, and the head. Um, when I'm touching these access points, I am very focused and intentional. I'm envisioning the client being whole, healthy, and well.
Do you have like a favorite client story that you'd like to share without sharing too many details to respect their privacy?
I have so many. That's my favorite part, is connecting with the clients. A lot of times they'll come in and they'll be like in crisis. But by the end of it, they're extremely relaxed. And then they'll tell me a story afterwards that kind of ties in to what I was sensing when they were here. But there was one, when I was working on her, I kept seeing her on the top of a mountain. When I get visions when I'm working on clients, I'll ask, well, what does this mean? Is there anything else you want to show me so I could share it with them at the end? And I didn't. I just kept seeing her sitting on a mountain. So when we were done with the session, I had told her, and she had brought her friend. So her friend was sitting here waiting for her, and they both started like giggling. And I guess it was a recurring dream that she would have, where she would be sitting on a mountain, mountaintop. And I just thought, wow, that's kind of interesting that I was tapping into her dream. Um, and she had actually come in because she was having heart issues. And the next day after the session, she ended up having a dream, and she kept hearing Arjuna in the dream, Arjuna, Arjuna. So she looked it up, and Arjuna is actually a root, and it's used to treat heart issues. So she ended up buying a supplement and started taking it, and it ended up helping her tremendously. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I think that's a great story. So, beyond Spinal Flow, what spiritual practices or beliefs are part of your daily life?
So I meditate. I meditate more to center and to really go within and kind of sense what I'm feeling. Um, and then I like to do yoga for more of the embodiment, to move the energy. And yeah, I do. I love clearing spaces and setting intentions and just being very mindful of what other people are going through. I try to embody compassion and grace as much as I can.
Yeah, it's needed in the world right now.
Yeah.
So when a client leaves, I know with sessions, oftentimes clients will tell me that they feel like lighter, they feel more supported. So for your clients, what would you say that you most often see for them? What are the benefits?
And so instantly they feel very relaxed and reset because that's what it's doing. It's resetting your nervous system. It's putting you back into that parasympathetic, rest digest state. So they instantly feel very relaxed. And that's why I said it's important for them to know their blockages and what's causing them. Because when they go back out into the world, if they go back to the stressful situation, they're just going to re-trigger the fight or flight response again. Right. So you want to try your best to incorporate different techniques on your own at home to help you stay in that rest and digest. The more sessions they have, because it's a therapy, we are in training the nervous system. So it will naturally want to stay in the rest and digest state.
I think that's one of the most rewarding things with this, right? For me, that's when I feel like I'm doing my soul's work, when someone you feel that connection back in and then they leave. So I think there's a lot that has come out recently about sympathetic and parasympathetic, which we were joking that it's often hard to keep track of which one is which. So the parasympathetic, when we're in that rest and digest, well, then when life stressors do come up, that I then have kind of the tools already in place. My system is able to process and handle the stressors versus when we're already in that fight or flight and then other things are coming in like, I always picture kind of like a pressure cooker, where you're ready to start to blow that steam out because it's all been, like, building up and you don't have the reserve then to address what's going on in your life.
Absolutely. I think, when we're activated with that fight or flight, we tend to react. And when we're more in a parasympathetic state, which is that rest digest, we tend to respond, right? So that's a good gauge to know where maybe you're at. Am I responding to life or am I reacting?
That's a great question to be asking. And I do that for myself too. So, what do you hope people take away, not just from Spinal Flow sessions, but from connecting with you and your work at Blue Lotus?
Yeah, so one of my main goals is just to help people remember who they are and to empower themselves. I feel like it's really important for them to listen to their own body and know what's going on because they're the only ones who know their body better than anyone else. So it's really just finding that empowerment to help them remember that their body can heal itself. It's really interesting because I really just want to empower people and help them remember who they are. I think that we're just all very disconnected and kind of moving through life with no direction. The mind body spirit trichotomy is really important.
So, what role do you think the mind, body, spirit kind of plays in healing?
That's something I'd have to think. I'm trying to think here. I mean, when I think of mind body spirit, I feel like they all have to be in alignment, right? The mind body spirit connection is important to be in balance. Because I think of it like when we start to get pain in our body, it's your body trying to communicate to you, right? Um, does that make sense?
It does, and I think that, our kind of self-talk, I feel we manifest what we say, and I was just telling someone over the weekend that had a surgery for an injury, and I was explaining to her, start to look at how you're phrasing your wording around this injury. Are you thinking that my leg is weak? Can we start to flip that? Like, actually, my leg is really strong. Actually, this is my stronger leg. And it's about those little things that we can do to help with that mind, body, spirit connection that can help with healing. And I've seen this with people that have had organs removed, like kidneys, if you've had a hysterectomy like, what are the narratives? What are you telling yourself? You can coach people before they have surgical procedures, and there's all sorts of wonderful books and meditations now about if you're going to have surgery, to have that like mindset going in that your body feels safe. You actually tell your body what's going to be happening, so that it feels like it's in connection. I think that certainly there are times where we just have an injury, right? A herniated disc, that's an injury. But then we can also take a look at maybe that pain might be getting increased because maybe there's a lot on your plate right now and you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders and it's weighing down. And so that emotion might start to affect how that pain is coming up, right? Still needs to be treated absolutely by a medical professional. And yet, if we can also take a look at the emotional side or the spiritual side and start to decrease stress to help the parasympathetic system kick in and be in that rest and digest, then it just makes that healing with all teams on board hopefully go a little bit more smoothly.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's funny because I'll have clients that come in with specific issues. Like I had one gentleman who has insomnia, and every time he comes in, he's like, he wears one of the watches, and it he's like, I only got 1 hour of REM sleep and I can't sleep, and the repetitive wording, and it's almost like he's reaffirming every day that he can't sleep. So how is that helping? Right? You're literally programming yourself to not sleep. Um, but yeah, it's interesting how that works. Like our minds and our thought process affects our body so much. Even with my own experience, um, I remember I had like a lot of digestive issues for many many years, and every day I'd wake up and I'd be the first thing I would ask is how does my stomach feel? Right? I'd be looking for it, and the second I looked for it, my stomach would start hurting, and on my journey, I had a friend who said to me, she had shared that she had been sick with her stomach for many years and she was on medications. And she said, one day I just threw out all my medicine and I decided I didn't have that illness anymore. And when she said that, it like triggered something in me. And I'm like, and how do you feel? She's like, I'm fine. I don't have the illness. And it was a chronic autoimmune disorder. And I just thought, wow, is it that easy? Like you literally can think it into existence. And so I started doing that and stopped looking for my stomach pain. And wow, what a difference. Of course, when you've been doing it for so long, it's hard to break that habit. But eventually I stopped looking for it. And then like a month had gone by and I'm like, I noticed, oh, I haven't had any stomach pain. And then the second I thought it would come back. But yeah, the mind does play a huge role in our health. I look at the mind as a tool. A lot of people don't really see the difference. They think their mind is who they are, but it's an organ in the body. It's a tool. If we use it like a tool and realize that our soul is separate from our mind, um, that was a life changer for me because then we could talk back to the negative thoughts and kind of really guard what we're thinking.
For me, that's one of the fun things I really like about my job is to help people to identify those maybe some thought patterns and how they can shift. And we're certainly not saying to be like a Pollyanna about it, right? Like sometimes you have a pain and there's a reason and you need to go to the doctor. But I do think for some of those more like chronic issues or even just help with recovery, that it can be some of these different modalities can be really helpful because that way you're kind of just, for me, I always look at it as like you're taking kind of a supplement or a vitamin almost, but like energetically. So you're helping the body feel better energetically, which then allows you to have more energy to address whatever those physical issues might be. But we obviously want to be really clear that we stay in our lanes of we are not doctors, we are not diagnosing. We are here simply to help people to address the mind body connection so that they can have that piece very healthy and functioning and what their thought patterns are so that any other medical treatment can be that much more effective.
Yes, and I totally agree with that. And thank you for mentioning that specifically because it is important. Of course, if you have an illness, you should see your doctor.
And I think a lot of these practices are really helpful for anyone right now because life is so stressful and fast. And I don't know anyone, including myself, that we all have, right? Things from the past. We have emotions that we carry. So people will often ask, like, once like they come to a session and the chakras are open, everything's moving, it doesn't stay that way, right? Because life happens, right? They can leave and a few weeks later they have an argument with someone and it really hits the heart or that heaven forbid they lose someone. So life is always fluid and it's constantly changing. So I think it's always a practice and that we're all constantly moving through and releasing things that are coming up for us emotionally and energetically. And then new things might come in and it's this like delicate dance that we're constantly doing.
Yes, I agree.
So let me ask you. So Blue Lotus Bridge, I love that name. So can you talk a little bit about how you came up with that name? Because when you talk about your work, I always do see it as like a bridge and that you're connecting people. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, um, so when I redid the space, I had painted the walls this very light, calming blue. And blue is a very calming color for the nervous system. So that was very intentional. And I was sitting in the space with a friend. And I still didn't know what I was going to call the business. And we were kind of just toying around. And we kind of both came up with the Blue Lotus Bridge. And I think it was very, very fitting. Um, I do feel like a bridge, right? Well, first of all, the nervous system to me is like a bridge between the body to your higher self. But a lot of times when I'll have clients, they'll be like at a crossroads or a threshold point in their life, and they'll talk about something that they're trying to do or they would like to do. And I'll happen to know somebody and I'll connect them, right? And then I'll talk to them like a few weeks later, and it's like their whole life has changed. Um, yeah, so it is an honor to be that bridge for people.
And you had a story recently about someone that you were a bridge to. Can you share that story? Because I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, so I had this woman, she is a hospice nurse. And when she had come in, it was the first time she had come in. As soon as she told me she was a hospice nurse, I had asked her if she had ever heard of end of life doula. And she said, "Oh my God, that's validation for me because it's something that's come up and I've been really interested in looking into becoming one." And she was saying that she would love to meet somebody who does that so she can kind of pick their brain about, the ins and outs and what training and certifications you might need. And I happen to know somebody, so I connected her. And yeah, so that's kind of what I mean by like the bridge aspect.
I love that. So, for listeners, can you tell people where they can find you and maybe some upcoming events that you have?
Yeah, so I'm on bluelotusbridge.com and on my social, it's Blue Lotus Bridge on Facebook and on Instagram. And then I'm actually really excited. I'm gonna be participating in a floating sound bath. That's the one where, you're floating in the pool. And we're gonna be doing it at Oak Creek Preserve. Um, so we have one scheduled for September and then another one in October. And then we're toying around with doing November, depending on what the weather is here in Florida. And Oak Creek Preserve is in Sulphur Springs. It's run by my friend Julie and we're also having Andrea Morrison with Balance from Within. She's going to be collaborating with us, but that's going to be fun. And I'm scheduled to be doing an expo later this fall here in town. Um, but I'm going to be putting all that information on my website.
Well, I would love to come down and to experience the floating sound bath. I think that just sounds amazing. So I'm going to have to be checking my calendar for when my next Florida trip is going to be. So thank you so much for being here today, Jennifer. It was so great to have this conversation. And I trust it went exactly where it needed to go. So I'm really, really grateful. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I had fun.
Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm going to list all of Jennifer's contact information in the show notes in case anyone is interested in learning more about her or her work. And as always, if there are any topics that you'd like for me to cover in an upcoming episode, please feel free to email me, Gina at thekarunalife.com. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please consider leaving us 5 stars and following. We'd be grateful. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.